your strength and show me your weakness. We're in this together now. We're in this together now. Give me your love and tell me your secrets. 'Cause we're in this together now. Yeah, we're in this together now. No, 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 no.
Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today obviously I have my husband Taylor here with me. We are celebrating our 5-year wedding anniversary this coming week, and so we thought today would be a fun time to share, each of us share 5 things that we've learned in 5 years of marriage. So we are going to each be sharing 5 different things that we learned, and I mean these are things we came up with together, so they're not like just separate points, but they're each things that we like thought of. And so Taylor is going to share the first point. This was really fun for us to put together and to come up with. Obviously being married for 5 years doesn't make us experts. We still have a lot more time to go. It has been fun for us to just like look back and reflect on how far we have come as a couple in our marriage and how much we have grown and changed even. And so these are the things that we have learned in our 5 years. So we will have Taylor start with your first thing.
So my first thing, and it's the first thing that came to my mind when Haley mentioned that we would be doing this, I mean that's why I'm doing it first, is that your spouse is your best friend and everything is better with your spouse. I think that when we first got married, I think it was easy for me to think that to separate things I did from things she did, or we had our interests that were different, things like that, and at first those were kind of separated, but as time's gone on I've realized it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's something I like to do or she likes to do or something we like to both do together, everything is better with her, and I love that, and I love that I've gotten to see that in the last 5 years, and just to see how good of a friend that she's become to me. We are best friends, and that's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's just everything's better with your spouse. Everything's more fun. And I think that's just an amazing thing, that I'm very lucky to have somebody who is my best friend, and is somebody that, whether we're just running to the grocery store or just here at home, life's better with her. So that's my number one.
I think adding on to that point, that we've become better. Like, we were best friends when we dated. I mean, obviously that's why we got married. But Taylor has been lucky enough to have been working from home and doing a lot of school from home, especially with the pandemic, but even before the pandemic, he was doing a lot of that. So in the last 3 or 4 years even of our marriage, we have spent a lot more time together than your typical married couple does, just because most people are going to their jobs, they're doing their separate things, and then they come together at the end of the day. But with my health and with COVID and just things that have changed the world a lot for us recently, that has brought us a lot closer together, and it has made us spend more time together and really build on that friendship too. So I think if for some reason your spouse isn't technically your best friend, but you want them to be, just spend more time with them. Make the time to spend time and to do things together and to come closer together. So yeah.
Thank you, that was sweet.
My first thing is that you should always trust your spouse, trust each other, and be willing to share anything and everything with them, and just don't be afraid to have that communication open. I think when you're dating, you just really want to please each other, and you want to just put on your best face all the time and just say everything that you think that they want to hear and stuff. Which I get that, but we dated for 2 years before we got married, which is a decent amount of time, and so we were pretty comfortable with each other already. But we had never been married, we didn't have kids yet or anything, and there's just so much that when you start building a life together instead of separately, that you just have to communicate so much more, and you have to learn to trust each other and just really be able to go to them with anything. I've really learned this in the last several years too, that I can go to Taylor with anything. I used to be so worried about like putting like my health issues on him and like the stress that came with all of that and not being a good enough wife or mom and stuff. But now I feel like that I've opened up to him and like really communicated these things with him, that it's made us stronger and closer, and that like I find a lot of comfort and peace talking to him about any of my concerns and all the time. And that's really what is like made our marriage stronger, is just being able to literally tell each other anything at any time. So
yeah, and it wasn't like that at first. I mean, like she said, you know, when you're dating, you say all the right things, right? That's how your relationship kind of progresses. It's like, oh, we have so much in common. Everything's the same. Wow, we're like twins, you know? You know, that's not reality for anyone. I learned very quickly that I can trust Haley. And so the important thing is to reciprocate that, right? Like, you want to treat your spouse's requests and your spouse's, you know, concerns or whatever they say the same way you'd want yours to be treated. And so that's something I've definitely learned going along with that point. So trust is really good. So my second point kind of goes along with a little bit what we've talked about, but it's define the good in the differences between you and your spouse. You know, kind of mention that like when you're dating, everything's in common, right? You want, oh yeah, we're so similar. And then you get married and the truth comes out that, oh my gosh, we're different, you know, who would have thought? But I think that's a great thing. I think there's a lot to be gained from embracing the differences that you have between one another. I mean, imagine, you know, if everything we liked or all our strengths were exactly the same, there'd be a lot of points that we would have weaknesses. You know, there'd be a lot of areas that we needed some help. So the fact that she and I are so different, you know, we're similar in the really important ways, you know, in some of the foundational things about our character, we're similar. You know, we have similar goals and similar plans for our future, but ultimately, like, the differences we have make us more well-rounded as a couple. It makes us more well-rounded as a family, and it's something that I've just really learned to love. And at first, when you're dating, you really don't think about those differences in the way that you do when you're married. And now I'm so grateful, you know, that we have these differences, that I can lean on you when I'm weak, you know, when we're in an area that I'm not really very good at, which is a lot of areas, and then, you know, I can lean on her, and that, for me, that's huge, and that's something I've definitely learned, is to love the differences. So.
Yeah, and I think the fact that like when you start to realize that like your differences are a positive and are a strength, that like it does help you to like build up your like where like one person might be strong, it helps you to become stronger in that area too. Like we're helping kind of change each other in good ways, and we're not like becoming the same person. We're still like our own individuals, and we still do have those differences, but like I am different from before we were married now because of like the differences that we have, and I think that's a good thing. And as you really accept that, like it helps you to grow as an individual and together as a couple too. The second thing is the like trendy idea right now of learning each other's love languages, which like is different for everybody. If you haven't heard of those, there's like 5 different main ones that they say, but honestly it can be like whatever you come up with is your own. So like for example, we're different in the fact that Taylor really likes words of like affirmation and like praise.
Praise me all the time, yeah.
And I'm more of a person who just likes like the quality time and like the being close and stuff. And so like something I've had to learn is that like obviously when Taylor does something sweet for me, or like he does something really well, like I'm grateful for that, and I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. And like maybe I say it very like casually, but for him, he really wants me to like recognize that and be like, oh my gosh, like that was so great, thank you for doing that and stuff, instead of just being like, hey, thanks, you know. And so like for me, I always figured that like when I said, hey, thanks, like that was like obviously that I was grateful and stuff, because like I always have been, like it's never been like, oh no, like I don't think what you do is important and stuff. But that's how I am. Like I don't need you to like praise something I do to feel thanks for it if you say thank you, but that's how he is, and that's how some people are. So like realizing that his love language is different than mine, because like I'm more on the needy side of where like when you get home from work, I'd like you to spend time with me and stuff. And so like when like I'm realizing that that's not his, so that like just the differences and being able to figure out what you can do to like better serve each other, and realizing that it's different than maybe how you feel has been important. And like I really try to make more of an effort to really thank Taylor for things that I do, and like say, oh, you did this so well and stuff. And so I've tried to be better at that, and I feel like that's helped a lot. And then along with that, it was just doing like other small things, like acts of service for each other, and just like other small little like things. And like we make sure that we say I love you a lot. Like it's just kind of become a habit. We say I love you like sometimes like 100 times a day.
Feels like that at least.
Yeah.
I think we say I love you a lot more than we did when we were first married.
Yeah.
I think it gets more and more with time. So.
Yeah, we say it a lot and it's helped. So that's my second one.
Yeah, I think going along with that, it's just those love languages, I didn't even know what mine was. And so like taking the time to explore that and like kind of think about it made me realize what mine are. And so that it's really helped me to just feel more grateful and more appreciative of her and everything that she does. And also, it doesn't have to be big things like, you know, eating breakfast with her in bed some mornings, you know, like just talking and spending time together, going for a walk, going for a drive, as long as we're together. And, you know, it can just be small stuff. So, all right, my third point is planning specific date nights is super important. There's, especially during the pandemic, there's been so many times where we're like, we basically don't plan date nights because we don't go out very much. We don't go out to eat. We stay in. We try to be careful and safe with everything. And so we're like, oh yeah, every night's kind of date night. Like we're always hanging out together. Like she said, we spend a lot of time together. But we've noticed that, and we've noticed that recently, you know, as we actually like set aside when we do our planning together weekly, set aside what night is it going to be, you know, what's it going to be, take responsibility for planning it and putting it together and kind of get excited about it. And even just doing that, even when it's still the same activities that we normally would just do anyways, it just makes them more fun. Suddenly, like the whole night is about you, and it's just more exciting. And so, you know, that's become something that I've learned. You know, it was clear before the pandemic that date nights were fun, but you know, after now with the pandemic and everything like that, even when you're stuck inside, just set aside that time. I think it's super important. So.
Yeah, and like he said, we like often are just doing the same things that we would do anyways, like ordering takeout and then watching a movie or something. But like it's different when you plan it. Like it just feels more special. It feels more intentional. You're like trying to spend that time together and like just make it more meaningful. And so it has been. And I feel like those dates already have made us a lot closer than had we just done the same thing without it being planned, which is so weird. But so my third point is that when you're married, you are going to fight. When we were dating, so like I said, we dated for 2 years. We like honestly never had a fight the entire time we dated. But we were like, I don't know if we'll ever have a fight when we get married, which was so silly to think because of course like everybody fights with their spouse. And it's not like we do that. We don't fight often, and we rarely fight about anything that's ever a big deal.
It's always stupid
It's
stuff.
always really stupid stuff, and like it's not that often, which is good. You don't want to be fighting a lot and stuff, but
It happens though.
it happens. And what I've had to learn from fighting is that like we always fight about the stupidest things that just don't matter. And like we always like at first one of us has to be right about it, and so we're like going back and forth trying to be right. Well,
It's
no,
usually me.
I do it too because like I don't want to give up because like we just get going and stuff. And so then like we'll get like upset over nothing, and then like we'll just like it's hard for us to like swallow our pride and say sorry. He's a lot better at it than I am. Like I have such a hard time. Like I just have to like cool down for a while before I can say sorry. But I find that the faster that we just move on from it and get over it, because it's always stuff that like literally doesn't even matter, that like we just feel happier, and it cools down a lot faster, and it's just happier. And so like just always be ready to just say sorry and forgive your spouse over things. Don't drag it out. Don't purposely make it take like hours or days or whatever. We never really like leave it overnight or anything. That's just never been something that we do, because like I just can't do that, and I don't think you really want to do that either. But like just like as soon as it happens, just take like 5 or 10 minutes to cool off, and then just say sorry. Like it just doesn't matter if you're right. Just say sorry and be kind again, and don't be mean to each other and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things you could do to try to avoid fighting in the first place, you know? You could really try to be more mindful about the things that you're saying and things like that, and don't use absolutes, being right all the time. You know, if you're the type of person who feels like you always have to be right, which I'm totally that kind of person, I have to get over it, and you've got to learn to get over it because you're never always going to be right. You know, it doesn't matter what it is in life. There's always going to be different perspectives, and there's no absolutes truly with things. So one thing that, you know, going along with what she said is just, you know, just talk it out. Don't leave it overnight. I think a lot of people say to do so, but I don't know, we just haven't had a good experience with that kind of thing. Just say sorry, you know, get it out, cool off, do whatever you got to do, go for a walk, whatever it is that, however you deal with it.
And talk about the issue just more calmly and like your feelings. You don't have to come to a like conclusion of who's right or wrong, because like it just doesn't matter. You can both be right in your own way or wrong in your own ways. And so
I can be wrong in a lot of ways.
So just like take time to just talk about like how you're feeling and do it calmly, and just say sorry that like you got angry at each other and stuff, even if like you just ignore the point in the future.
If you don't know anything else to say, just stick to your feelings.
Yeah.
You can never go wrong with saying like, I feel this, I feel that, because I find that helps me express myself better rather than being like, you did this, you did that. That's so accusatory. Just talk about your feelings, and you can usually build from there. So fights, they're gonna happen, but they don't have to be a horrible thing. My fourth thing is to let trials in life bring you closer together. I think starting out when we were first married, I think we had some trials. We had a lot of really hard trials when we were first married. Our first 2 years of marriage were abnormally difficult, I think, you know, obviously that's just our perspective, you know, but it didn't really feel like we had like a newlywed experience necessarily, where it was just like honeymooning for 6 months. It was just immediately, there was a lot of hard stuff. And at that time, early in our marriage, we didn't necessarily let those trials bring us closer together. You know, there was a lot of tension. It was stressful. It was a difficult thing, and it kind of wedged something between us. And you know, it was hard for us to get over those trials because we just didn't approach them with the right attitude and with the right perspective of what the trials really were meant to do for us in our lives, and how we could better handle those. Now, I would say, you know, the last 3 years, we've gone through maybe even harder trials. But the difference is suddenly that like those trials don't feel as bad in comparison to the first 2 years, because we've had a totally different outlook and a totally different attitude on those trials, and we've allowed those to bring us closer together. We've really relied on each other differently than we ever did before. So much more confidently now than we used to be able to, and that's only 5 years, you know, into marriage. I can't imagine, you know, we're still new at this, you know, but I'm looking forward to how we handle trials, you know, throughout the rest of our marriage, because it makes it so much easier to go through things with someone else who thinks the way you do, who loves you, you know, who's there to support you. So that's, you know, you really have to approach it as a team.
Yeah.
So.
And we were really young when we got married. I was 20 barely when we got married, which is so little, and like it just didn't have that much life experience yet. And when you combine your lives together and you start to face adulthood, because marriage kind of makes you do that a little faster, things get thrown at you that are really hard and really difficult. And when you don't have experience, you just don't know how to handle those things the right way. And so my advice, if I were going back to my 20-year-old self, would be to just like let these things draw you closer together, and don't push each other apart from these things. A lot of it was lack of communication. We just weren't good at communicating our feelings, and we weren't good at dealing with hard things because we were such babies still.
Yeah, we were.
And I mean, like, these trials have forced us to grow up a lot more and have put a lot more perspective into our life. But yeah, the last 3 years, the trials have been really hard still. We've had a lot to face, but I think they have been a really positive thing for us in the fact that we have grown so much closer together.
You're always going to have trials. All of us are, no matter what we do. So just learning to deal with that better is definitely something that I've been grateful to learn in the last 5 years. So.
Yeah. My fourth point is that it's important, like we said, like spending the quality time together, it's important to find activities and hobbies that like you specifically enjoy doing together. So like Taylor really enjoyed board games, and so like he has gotten me to like some board games. I don't like all the ones he likes, which like goes further on this point, but it's still okay to have your own interests and hobbies too, and to be individuals and to spend time doing your own things. Like that is good, that is healthy, you should be doing that. But like Taylor has gotten me into some board games, and so I do like doing that with him and spending that time together. Our hobbies that had like were originally our own interests that we've kind of combined into interests we can do together. But still, like, there are things that I still do alone that Taylor would probably never do, and same with Taylor. Like, there are things that, like, he is into that I just never will be into, and that's good, that's fine. And so, like, allowing each other to have the time to come together and enjoy your hobbies together, and then also just letting yourselves have your own solo hobbies and encouraging those and supporting them too.
Yeah, having that time, whether it's with your friends, you know, or whatever,
or even alone,
on your own, whatever it may be, like, you know, that time's important and that time's healthy.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to like what you like. All right, my final point, I saved this one for last because I think this is the most important thing, and this is the other thing that comes to my mind right away is, you know, marriage is not dating. It's the hardest thing that you'll probably ever do, but it's also by far the most rewarding and the best thing that you'll ever do. Nothing beats marriage. It's hard. There's work involved. You know, every single day you have to think about somebody other than yourself. And no matter, you know, how much you want to, you know, totally just be selfish sometimes, which is the case often for me, you know, you really need to love the other person more than yourself. And that takes work every single day. You know, that's minute by minute. But the reward is incredible. I mean, nothing can top the reward of marriage. It really can't. Nothing can beat it. It's the best thing. So don't go into marriage thinking it's going to be like dating. You know, it's not like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like, I just, you know, we're hanging out all the time, texting constantly, and like, you know, that Twitter-pated little, you know, whatever. You all know what I'm talking about. You know, you think that marriage is just going to be like a like, oh my gosh, we're just having a sleepover all the time. Like, it's going to be a continuation of dating. It's not like that. It's totally different, but it's so much better. But you just have to be prepared for that. So don't, you know, I give this advice to people that I know and people who are, you know, getting married. It's just don't go into it thinking it's going to be just like dating. Harder, but so much better. So
when you're dating, you're like still individuals, like with your own lives and your own things, and like you'll come together and do things together, and then you'll go on your own and do other things and stuff. When you're married, you have a family too. Like, you are essentially part of this family and you have a combined life now. You still have your own individual like things, obviously you're still individuals, but you're combining your lives and you're sharing your lives with each other, and so it becomes a lot more, like he said, you have to be selfless and you have to care more about other people than just yourself. Whereas in dating, like, yeah, obviously you care about the other person, you love them, but a lot of dating still is a lot of just selfishness and like just being on your own. And so I agree that like marriage though brings so much more reward than the dating and then going on your own way and then dating and going back. Like, it's just so much more rewarding to like put in the effort and the time for like the person that you love and that you care about, and seeing how like that builds your relationship and brings you closer together and just like helps you like make a better life. Like, your life just becomes better, and so it's so much more rewarding when you're putting in work. So it is harder, but like so much better. So
absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the harder something is, often the more rewarding it is at the end, right? I mean, I don't think Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, like he didn't just paint that and just back up and be like, you know, it took how long, and just, oh yeah, it was okay. And that was like, you know, things that take a lot of work really are worth it in the end. We've always been of the mindset, and always will be, that there's no greater work that we'll ever take part in our life than, you know, building our family and making it, you know, as loving and as good as possible, really. So there's no greater work we'll do than that.
My final point is to make sure that you're always supporting and encouraging each other's dreams. Taylor is, again, a lot better at this than I am for him. Like, I have so many different like dreams and ambitions that most people would probably think are really silly, like YouTube being one of them. Like, I don't think a lot of husbands would support me the way that he does and be like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I tell him an idea I have and he gets so into it, and he's like, oh my gosh, you can do this with it, and this and this and this is gonna be so good. And like, he'll go and he'll spend the money to make things happen for me, or he'll help me get ideas, or he'll take pictures of me, or he's the one who does my website. Like, he goes to extra links on the side of all he already has to do, because he does school and work full time right now, and he's a dad and he has his own life and stuff too, but he goes to make sure that just because this is a dream of mine that I get it done, and he encourages it. And I mean, this right now, this provides no benefit to our family except for that it's something that I want to do and that I think is fun, and so it's a hobby for me, and he supports it that strongly and stuff. And so I try to do that for him too. And it's like, if he wants to get a master's degree once he finishes this degree, and like he has other hobbies and interests, like he tries to get into different things all the time. So like I want to be as supportive of those things as he is. Like he told me that he wants to start reading more, and so for Christmas I tried to find like more books that I thought he would be interested in. I got him some of those for Christmas to like try and encourage that. And that's much smaller than like what he's doing for me, but like if he ever came to me with like a dream as big as that, then like I would want to do the same for him. And that really helps like bringing closer together too, is like helping each other like do what you want to do in life and to like really enjoy life too. It's not just getting through life and like doing the essentials, it's like helping each other to do all you want to do also is really important.
Well, you can tell words of affirmation are my love language, because I was just loving it. I was like tearing up almost there. It was really sweet. Just to go along with that, I think, I'm the type of person who, Haley's taught me a lot about how to dream. She has big dreams. She's always dreaming about things and expressing her dreams, and often my dreams I'll just kind of bury, being like, oh, that's unrealistic and things like that. So, she's done a lot for me in that regard. And I just always been in the mindset that why wait? We've had a lot of conversations about like YouTube and blog and all these things that Haley wants to do, but she's, a lot of times said, oh, well, I just need to wait until I get to this point in my life, until we have this or this or this. And I just don't see the point in that, just why not start now? Why not just get going? Just do what you can, and that's just always how I felt about it. And so that's why I just, from minute one, just encourage your spouse, even if the timing might not seem right, what can you do now? I'm sure there's something you can do to bring that dream a little bit closer, right away. So I just think that's so important. And, dreams are fun. Everybody has dreams. Everybody has things they want to achieve. And your spouse should be the number one supporter, the number one fan, the number one, person you can turn to help you with these things, with your dreams. So we must sound like experts, right? 5 years, but by no means are we experts in any of this.
No. We've only been together for 7 years and married for 5 of those, so we are still very new to marriage too, and I'm sure that in the next 5 years we'll be like, wow, we knew nothing back then.
Yeah, we were so dumb.
So this was just the things that we have learned, and hopefully this was helpful or at least entertaining to you. So yeah, we're grateful to have been married for 5 years, and I'm grateful for this guy for helping me to be able to do this. And so we hope that you have a great rest of your day and that you're staying safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.